What's up, friends? Welcome back to Rooted Wisconsin, where we share the stories of the people driving Wisconsin business, community, and culture. Start our show off the same way we do every time, by thanking you. Thank you for your likes, shares, subscribes. Thanks for every episode you click on, and thanks for being you. We appreciate it. We make the content for you. We talk to the guests for you, and appreciate you continuing to come back. So thanks for doing that. Of course, starting off our episode with a shout out to our sponsors. We're in the Riverside Pizzeria studio. Thanks to Ryan and his team. Hopefully you get hungry looking at the wall. And stop in Riverside in Ashwaubenon and Iron River when you get a chance, when you're around. And watch for Riverside coming to a town near you in Wisconsin as well. And also our friends at Forward Beverage, soft cocktails and social seltzers. Doing awesome things in Wisconsin in the non-alcoholic space. I've talked about it a couple different times, how passionate I am about that. And I love that they're giving people options when you go out to the bar, when you go out to dinner, when you're hanging out with your friends at the lake, giving people options that don't have to be alcohol all the time. So Paul and Amy at Forward Beverage are doing some awesome stuff. Check out Paul's episode if you haven't yet, and check out or grab some Forward Beverage drinks, soft cocktails, social seltzers. And you can check out their website on their map that's getting continually more blue, where it's available throughout Wisconsin and the entire Midwest. So thanks to them as well. That all being said, let's get our next episode started. Welcome to the studio, Davin Lindwall. Thanks for coming in, Davin.
Thanks, Brad. That was a nice intro, man.
Thanks.
You're pro.
Somewhat, right?
Yeah.
I was probably a pro at one time.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird because in the broadcasting space, it was always coached to be really polished and really perfect and cut it, several times until it's ready.
Yeah.
And that's for all kind of traditional broadcasting. And I think there's several of them with flubs in it now, and I don't care that much. I think it... I don't know if endearing is the right term, but it's real.
Yeah, totally. There's a humanness to it. Yeah. We've actually noticed that in, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think in our line of work too, with independent film, like it's becoming more that way too, where, you used to like cut out a certain bump or like a certain line in the script that wasn't supposed to be there that they said or whatever. And then an actor brings that and it adds such a different element, of like, just humanness and rawness and realness. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that. I think it's cool.
Yeah. You read a lot of stories about that are like in the depths of movie creation. Like, you hear it about different actors who just ad-libbed in the moment. Yeah. And then that ended up like making the movie somewhat. Like I think there's one about, one of Bill Murray's scenes in Caddyshack, like the iconic one where he's talking about the bluegrass, Kentucky bluegrass.
Yeah.
Like I think if I remember right, that was one of those things where he just kind of went with it.
That was him.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was. Yeah. Bill's iconic for that. We did have that in ours actually. So, we had Craig T. Nelson was our lead actor, and just an incredible human, incredibly talented actor. He had such a presence. Like immediately when he came on set our first day, it was like, whoa, there's a legend here, and you could just like feel it from him. But, just speaking of like ad-libbing and stuff, he ended up rewriting one of our scenes. And it's actually I think it's one of the most powerful scenes in the film. And he just did that on his own. Like he called us one night, it was the night before we were going to shoot that scene. And he's like, hey guys, I rewrote this scene. We're like, what? He's like, I had to do it. I just like had this feeling of what it should be, after like playing Buck's his name in the movie, playing his character. Like I felt like he should say this. And we're like, Craig, this is you, man. Like you've been doing this a lot longer than us. Like if you feel it, let's do it. So we ended up shooting it his way, and it's unbelievable, like super powerful. So shout out to Craig, but also to actors when you're, or anybody that's like when you're in your element and you have a feeling of like a gut feeling of what that thing should be, like you got to voice it and go with it. So
that's probably a fine line, right? In that space, because you're thinking of the person who has to deliver it is kind of embodying that person you want them to be. You wrote it, but then they deliver it, and it's probably this weird, like, coming together of these two creative forces, right? And just like anything else, it probably, like in that scenario, it held some weight because it was Craig.
Yes, right.
But to a certain extent, it's got to be everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because I think of my jobs that I've had over the years, and we want some autonomy in what we can control, right?
Yeah,
Is that the same?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I don't think I think by making those intentional choices or voicing things that you feel strongly or feel from your heart are true and right, I think that's how you get to a point of like elevating your career, right? Or by, not just being like staying in your lane or whatever you're like supposed to do, or, staying in the script, right? Like, I think if you can, to elevate beyond that, I feel like you do need to make those choices and be firm in your beliefs sometimes, But yeah, it is a balance, right? You got to find, certainly like everything, there's a balance to it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take it back a little bit further. Where did the idea of Green and Gold start?
Yeah. To be honest, it started right here, like right in Iron River, northern Wisconsin, like this part of the country. We always knew like this landscape and the people and the culture up here are so dear to our hearts that when we'd been developing like several stories, but Green and Gold was one that was like, it was just like always there. It was like always in the background. We knew like this story at some point, or some kind of story here. We didn't know it was gonna be Green and Gold specifically, but something from this area was gonna come out of us because it's just like so close to our hearts. So, and then our grandfather was a dairy farmer too. So we grew up around, some farming. Obviously, the culture of the Green Bay Packers are very infused just by them as an organization and their fans. We grew up huge fans. So, and then just like trying to tell a story from our home, from this area, because it hasn't been done, there's been like a handful of films that I'm sure some folks have seen, but we felt like it was underrepresented in cinema, and especially like in a sophisticated way. So we wanted to make something that was like feel good, true to the people and culture we know up here, but also like sophisticatedly like really strong, where we could compete in film festivals. We're gonna show up and people aren't gonna be like, oh, here we go, another Hallmark cinema, whatever. So so that was a goal of ours, was like, hey, let's bring something super elevated to this area and show it off to the world. So
yeah, it's hard not to let it come out, right? That I think of that sentiment when I think about like the reason behind me wanting to do the podcast. It's like shining a positive light on our area. One of our previous guests, actually a fellow filmmaker, was talking about how growing up, he always didn't love how culture always came from the coasts, and how we can share ours and shine a spotlight on ours. Yeah. And that's why there's a lot of content killing it right now of like the ingest Midwest humor. And it's funny. It's good. Yeah. Nothing looking down upon it at all. Yeah. But I think there's another angle of the Upper Midwest. There's the angle that you told with your movie. Yeah. The one that I'm trying to tell with our podcast guests. And it's the nature of what it means here to live here and the difference of the people.
Totally, dude. Totally. Yeah. No, I think that's true. And I think to that point, like, I think there's an appetite for it too. Like I think people, like you say, it's easy to go the other way with it. Like that, we always reference like a Fargo, like with our movie, like it's easy to go like more in that general direction because it hits, like it's it's a lot easier to write. But I think there is an appetite for people up here too, and for people around the world to like see it's like a totally different life and lifestyle and culture, and to represent it in an elevated way is super important. So and that's a passion of ours for sure.
Yeah. How did even further back, how'd you get into the field? It's a unique thing to do for a career.
Yeah, I know. We always say like, we certainly didn't come from Hollywood. We tell people that all the time. Like, this, like we do not, come from any sort of Hollywood background, which I'm super proud of. It's cool, and I think it helps us. I really do. I think it helps because we just come from such a different angle of, every element of our process was like way outside the box compared to how most people, take on independent films or even studio films. So, but yeah, I think, my parents, like, they weren't in the arts. Like, my dad sold cars. My mom worked at the hospital. Like, for some reason, I just had, I originally started in photography. So that was like my initial interest was like, just really like taking photos. And, we had a high school teacher that really nurtured, that in me. And I think he just gave me a lot of freedom. Like, something I'm really grateful for growing up in this part of the world was like, there weren't a ton of rules, and that even applies at school in some ways. Like, I had my senior year of high school, I had six of my 7 classes with this one teacher, and he was like the creative kind of teacher at the high school. So I had like 2 independent studies. I had a film class, photography class, graphic design. So I was just like in his class, and I was just obsessed with it. Like, I loved fiddling with cameras, taking pictures, trying, goofy story. Most of them were like goofy stuff with friends, like typical high school videos. But I think that freedom to explore and try and fail, and just I think exposure to a totally different career and like something to do was like really important. And I think that gave me like a juice to be like, yeah, I want to go, I want to try this. So
To find what drives you.
Yeah.
Find what you're passionate about and what actually satisfies you.
Yeah.
That's a missing element of a lot of, what we, by nature of what the education system does, or like even societal pressures, it goes against what youth see on a day-to-day basis. It did at one time. I think that's changing. But having that experience when you did is so valuable to be able to find that and then pursue it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, it's true. Where it's like, and a good shout out to teachers too. To like, if you see a student that's like obsessed or really passionate, or like, because for me, those classes, I never felt like I was in school. Like, it felt like I was like just hungry for more. Like, I could spend all day in there, like researching, trying, exploring, and it could be any topic. Like you say, like if it's construction, or if you see a kid that's like obsessed with numbers, like, how do you continue to foster that if there's a clear like passion and interest for it, instead of just like, oh, here's your schedule you have to go through, or whatever. I think that's a really valid, interesting point.
How long have you been in LA now?
So I went to school, I graduated high school in 2010, and then went to LA for college, and then stayed there for like another year, so till like 2015, and then bounced around. I was in Colorado for a number of years, and then moved back to Southern California in 2022. Yeah, 2022. So I've been kind of in and out for the last, 10 years, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and that probably drives some of those like feelings of endearment or connection to the upper Midwest, right?
Totally.
Being in different places. And
Yeah, no, it really does. Yeah, and honestly, the more I move around, the more fond and appreciative I am for this area, because it really is so unique. And I think I'm so grateful to have been privileged enough to get perspective on it. I think a lot of people, or just anywhere you grow up, if you kind of like get stuck there and you don't get a chance to like go out and see something else or experience another way of life or people group, like it's hard to have perspective on where you came from or what you had growing up. But yeah, being able to do that and get out and see the world, and then look back and be like, wow, that actually was a pretty special place and a pretty special upbringing. So, but yeah, and now it's like I talk to my wife like, I don't know, once a month about moving back up here, like, hey, what do you think? Just like a little nudge here and there, like, hey, you check out the real estate up in northern Wisconsin ever,
Yeah. So you see how much cheaper it is than
Yeah.
anywhere we've been?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, you're on a wild ride right now. I'm sure it's surreal in days. When you started the project with, whenever you started, especially something in the creative realm, when you start it, you hope it blossoms and balloons into this thing.
Yeah.
Yours has.
Yeah.
What, like at what moment did it go from this is a passion project to dang, this is probably going to be pretty big?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, I've been trying to. It's been such a chaotic journey for us, and it's gone in waves. Like the chaos. It's not like been like pedal to the metal since 2020, but we have been working on it for 5 years, right?
Yep.
It's like always running in the background, and at different times it gets really chaotic, and we're in one of those times right now of just like getting ready to release it and distribute it on 1,000 screens is like, yeah, it's a big deal, So I try to remind myself like, it's no matter what is gonna happen, like it's gonna happen, like it's gonna be out in the world, So like try to enjoy the journey of it. But yeah, in terms of like steps where it felt like it really ballooned or like a door opened, I think one key step was definitely Craig T. Nelson signing on, because he just brought such a wave of like legitimacy. Our casting process from there, really, I think it got a lot better because like, then when we cast for his supporting roles, it's like, hey, Craig T. Nelson's playing the lead. You immediately get like, whoa, like heads turning a bit more and a bit more. I think we probably got some more submissions. So I think our overall like casting improved significantly. Like I'm so proud of our like the other talent in the film when you guys get a chance to see it. Like, yeah, like Craig's amazing, of course. He's like a legend, but like the supporting roles totally hold their own. So that was a big one. And then he brought so much, he opened so many doors beyond that too, I think, for us from, different like avenues of post-production to different connections and just having a household name like that was super, super helpful as like first time independent filmmakers.
Get people to read a few more words of the script,
totally.
Take a little bit deeper look at it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And Craig he's just been a gift to the project. I mean, he came up here and he sang the national anthem at the Packers-Bears game in 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And, man, he's been such an awesome supporter. So I think he was a crucial one. And then the other pieces, I think, were we ended up partnering with both the Green Bay Packers and Culver's, which are two like brand sponsors for us now. And having those two come on board too was another like huge win for an independent film where it's like, wow, this thing can now like go way beyond us. And it really did from there. Once we got those two, like, a lot of distribution doors open for us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
The Culver's thing they have, like, it's like their farmer's pledge or whatever. Like, it fits exactly what you did. You can see
Totally.
that.
Yeah.
It's awesome that you got the Packers to sign on the dotted line because that's a tough nut to crack.
Dude. Yeah. What a slow burn, man. We had no idea. And now, like, when I look back, honestly, it was probably like a 2-year process for us of like knocking on doors there.
I bet.
Like, it was no joke. Like, way, way harder to make our way in there than any other connection we made. But rightfully so, right? Like, I think about it, I'm like, dude, they're like such a legacy brand, Like, I would be very, very like protective of that too. Like, the G means something, right? And they know it, and they want to protect it, and that's why that's why the Packers have so much history, right? And because they've been like, such a legendary brand for so long and iconic in sports and whatever. So it was. People are always amazed. Like, anybody that comes from the sports world is like, dude, how did you get the Packers? You know, because they don't do it. They don't partner with many people. So
there's few entities in the world, man, that operate at the level of PR that the National Football League does, and then that trickles down to each organization. And man, it's a brick wall that you have to really pound on to get down.
Totally, yeah.
But I think that that holds some power too. Not only is it a legacy brand, but it brings with that, it brings so much legitimacy, kind of referencing what you were talking about, Craig T. Nelson, too.
Totally.
Like, when you get that, when you can stamp the G on your poster and say, proud partner of the Packers or whatever, that it brings this level of just like you get that extra 5 seconds of eyeballs that people are like, okay, damn.
Yeah, dude, totally. And for us, like, we needed that as that's like, I think something we did. We certainly had a lot of bumps and wrong turns and things we would change going back and doing this all over again. But something we 100% did right was finding big partners like that. Because as independent filmmakers, like, you're kind of dead, you know? You like, it's so hard to get your film out there to the world, like, especially as first timers, but in the independent film world in general is like, it's a nasty game, and you need to find, like, you just need to find help. You need partners that can bring it from a small film festival where nobody sees it to 1,000 screens, you know, like, you need to find those partners. So, so I'm super proud of that, of the work we did there and we're able to do. But something funny I was going to mention, we were talking to, I don't know if I can say his name, but we were talking to a pretty high up brand exec here in Wisconsin about our project, and talking about how we got in with the Packers or whatever. And he works with a bunch of different NFL brands, and he's like, honestly, guys, make your next film about the Vikings. Like, he's like, their organization's so easy to get into. He's like, you can do whatever you want. Like, you can have access to anything. He's like, I would make a Vikings movie next. Which was kind of funny, but I don't know if I could ever bring myself to do it. But it was a funny anecdote, you know?
Yeah, it's funny to think about how, you know, the barriers to entry are lower. Because, I mean, we're in Wisconsin. We talk in jest about the Vikings all the time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's
way
so
to drive
funny.
home a stereotype, man. I got to meet that guy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, he's awesome. Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah. Well, you know, have you? I mean, being in the thick of it for so long, you probably haven't had time to even reflect on much, right? It's just like the next day happens, and there's another thing where you're being pulled in a direction to go.
Totally.
We're doing this. We're having this conversation right around your official premiere, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it'll be, right. Do you mean tonight?
Yeah.
Or like we have, it will be. Yeah, it is like an official premiere. It's funny to like, because it feels like we've done like, we had a couple film festivals, and then, we did like the Lambeau Field event. But yeah, this is like the first public facing premiere. Yeah, exactly. Like more traditional premiere. Yeah.
Yeah. So you like, I would, if, you know, putting myself in your shoes, I would be waiting for that moment, that reflective moment of like, okay, breathe. Now I can think about everything that happened, because it's been such a whirlwind up until now.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way? Is it on the horizon?
I think so. I think it is on the horizon. I can sense it coming. It feels like a train is approaching you. You know what I mean? Where it's like this monster thing that you can sense from the distance and you can hear, and it's like, you know, and it's gonna pass, you know, like the train's gonna go by, but it's not there yet, you know. And but I can totally feel a time coming where I'll be able to reflect and enjoy. But yeah, it's been such a journey that we're so integral and such a part of as independent filmmakers. Like, you don't get to separate and pass it off to a big studio to take and run with. It's like, we take it and run with it. And it felt like, even the event that you were able to come to, the Lambeau event, like that event felt like a microcosm of like the whole project, where like even that night, like I felt like I saw like 10% of the people I wanted to talk to, or like I didn't even get to fully experience the event. You know what I mean? Because it felt like a wedding in a lot of ways, where it was like, oh, I got to talk to this person and this person, and and we were getting like pulled in all these different directions, and it's hard to fully like slow down, breathe, look around you, like you're in Lambeau Field's atrium for your movie right now. You know, like it's hard to, it's truly so hard to appreciate and take it all in. But yeah, I think it is on the horizon. I think once we hit theaters, like, you know, that it's out in the world. Like, you know, we're a little bit like, put your pencils down, you know, like test is over, like see what happens, see how you did. And so yeah, it's certainly coming. But I told my wife last week for the first time, I was like, honestly, for these next 3 weeks, I'm ready to just like go to a cabin in northern Wisconsin, turn off my phone, and just like sit and be quiet and read a book. Like, I just want to turn off the world for the next 3 weeks and just see what happens, you know, and then come back and experience it. But
Yeah, sometimes you have to recharge the batteries.
yeah, totally.
And your
Yeah.
controller's been going a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Lambeau event was awesome, man.
Yeah.
The energy was palpable.
That's cool.
I loved how you guys had the band come and play at the end of the 20-some minute kind of snippet you gave us.
Yeah.
That was it was a poignant moment, and then just the entire thing. And that probably, I mean, life's hard enough to stay in the moment. And you're talking about not being able to talk to everybody you want. Like, try, you know, picking yourself out of normal life, set you down on a red carpet with lights all over and cameras like this far from your face with people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like,
Right. Yeah.
That would
Yeah,
take
totally.
anybody out of the moment, man,
Yeah.
and be, you know, kind of fixed in this place of awe. That it's, you know, I'm sure it was surreal at times, but you know, to have there, I saw. I didn't get to talk to everybody there. I wanted to, you know, and I'm such a secondary piece of that. And it was just, you know, the energy and what the night was. I don't know. I think anybody would have been taken out of the moment and hard to stay there because it was cool. But back to the point, the band thing was such an awesome way to kind of wrap that up. Whose grand idea was that? Like whose creative idea was that?
Yeah, that was Anders' idea.
Okay.
Yeah. And music is such a crucial component to the film. You know, like when you guys are able to see it, you'll very much clearly understand what I'm talking about. Like we have a bunch of original songs written just for the film by like artists from Wisconsin. So S. Carey, he was a part of Bon Iver's band. He's a drummer for them, but writes his own music and like ultra talented, crazy talented musician that lives in Eau Claire, you know? And we got connected to him and a girl named Courtney Hartman wrote our final kind of like anthem song. And it's just like, it's super powerful. When you see it in the movie, you'll get like the whole picture of why it's there and what it means. But yeah, having them play it live, like just brought a totally different element to that event. And, we're trying to give people like an experience into what we've been experiencing. That was like that event was really the culmination of the past 4 years of like, and that's why it felt like a wedding. It was like bringing together like all the farmers from Door County that opened up their homes and their barns to us, to, you know, Craig Culver and Mark Murphy, you know, from like these major brand organizations, like all of those people coming together. And then like, our musicians and a lot of different crew and stuff that like put in so much time and energy into the project too. So having everybody under one roof was totally surreal. Yeah, it was an out of body experience for sure.
Yeah. Man, you brought up something in there I wanted to talk about today. It's something that's grinded my gears a little bit since watching some of the stuff on social media that you've been putting out. I see a couple people. I know a lot of the film or some of the film was shot in Door County.
Yeah.
Why are some people upset with that?
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Dude, I tuned out a lot of comments and stuff. So.
Don't see it.
Yeah.
Don't even look on social media. Don't see it. Like,
what are they saying about it?
It's not widespread or anything, but like I know, and who knows, it might be that one singular troll that I've noticed
that
in
keeps,
different
like,
places.
popping up.
Yeah. But like most of it, fittingly so, not fittingly so, but as you would expect, was on stuff that local news had shared with interviews with you guys and stuff.
Yep.
And there's trolls in traditional broadcasting that just like to come out of the woodwork. But I'm sitting here reading this and I'm like, Door County is, you can't drive more than 2 hours that direction. And if most of it is much less.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of farms there.
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, partner with the Packers. You can't shoot in Green Bay at one of these, a Brown County farm.
I see.
Drive through around Brown County, and how many farms do you see?
Yeah.
And like, do you know what goes into producing a piece of content? Like,
totally.
I'm totally glad you haven't seen that.
Yeah.
So I wish I wouldn't have even brought it up because
it's good. I need that. I went down like a Reddit rabbit hole of our film the other night, and I was like, this isn't good for me. I don't need to see this.
No.
You know, I feel like I've gotten to that point where I'm like, I finally understand what people are saying about like, not that we're a professional athlete level, but like where they just like, you have to totally tune out the media and like any press around you, like good and bad, right? Like, let's stay steady and constant, trust our work, trust what we're doing is right and true and coming from a good place in our spirits. And then like, that's all we can do. You know, like I can't pay attention to that stuff, but it does crack me up. I crack up sometimes at some of the comments I read, you know, especially the YouTube. There's been some good ones on YouTube. So I honestly want to go comment back like, hey, producer here, like, I totally appreciate this perspective. Like, this is pretty funny, you know, because it is. It honestly cracks me up. It doesn't like rattle me too hard. So
if you do it the right way, it can help grow your brand for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to, man. And it's hard to do. It's like this moth to a flame mentality, right? Sometimes we're like the car crash adage where it's like hard to take your eyes off, you know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, and that floats down to, you know, a singular user on social media that posts something about their life.
Yeah.
I was looking at something. I saw one yesterday where this guy, he was at some kind of event with his wife. And it looked like she had probably like had something traumatic happen in her life where that changed her visual appearance. And this guy was so gracious and kind and loving. He was just like, he introduced his beautiful wife and she was smiling from ear to ear. It was a huge day for them. And like half of the comments were talking disparagingly about his wife. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it makes it's the you know, the glaring positives and the overwhelming negatives of social media come crashing together all the time. And it's like, it makes you not even want to click it, you know? And that's weird because like it's social media. That's supposed to be where we can connect as humans and do that. And to see that part of humanity come out, I don't think it's good to do it regularly.
Yeah,
you know,
no, it's true, man. No, it can be a pretty sad thing, you know. And I've totally had that perspective now when I like, because this is our first time. Like, I don't put myself out there on social media or do anything, you know. Like, so I don't. So up until like us releasing this movie, I feel like I didn't have a great perspective on just how hard that is, you know, to like put yourself out there in something you like really believe in and are trying to do and just have people tear it to shreds, you know, it's like pretty savage. So I have a heart for a lot of, just like influencers or, you know, even athletes, you know. I was thinking about Jordan Love and like all the negativity he's had recently.
Crazy.
And I'm like, dude, this is like, he's a person, you know. He's really trying his best, like really good human, you know. So I totally have a different appreciation for that for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the oxymoron about it is because what gives me, it's really easy to rest back in comfort of 99% of the time, the folks that are making those hateful comments, they are too reserved or they're too scared to put their true selves out. Online.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
or anywhere.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
But it's like, I wish everybody could have that perspective, but it clearly impacts folks, you know, at times. And how could it not, you know? Think about, you know, you talked about Jordan Love, what he's going through, the hate for him is weird. I mean, 2 years as a starter, 2 playoff, you know, appearances. He's killing it. But like, then take that to the scale. I've talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers, what's gone on in his life.
Yeah.
Did you see his documentary on Netflix?
I haven't had a chance to watch it. No, I'm planning to. I'd like to watch it. Yeah. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I did. I watched it. It was great. I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan.
Dude, me too.
I love A-Rod.
Me too. Yeah.
I think some of those PR angles that's been taken about him he's on this uncontrollable ride where you get to a level where your hands aren't on the steering wheel anymore. Yeah. And you can try to drive a little bit, but for the most part, it's going to happen what happens. And he's an eclectic dude. He does some stuff. And I think it's awesome. Like I embrace individuality and I think it's great. Yeah. But like that concept, when it grows exponentially like that to be the quarterback of an NFL team, like Jordan going through probably, you know, it's probably his first time at that right now where maybe when he was drafted a little bit about like, why are we taking a quarterback or whatever, but that's not personal. It's organizational.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now to see them say, you know, paid too much money,
Yeah.
blah, 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 whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, where does the empathy live?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I feel like, what a human thing to have to forget about history and what has come before him, right? Like I was looking at stats comparing him and Favre from their first 2 years, him and Rodgers, and he's like better, you know, like his stats are better than both of those guys, like two of our most loved quarterbacks, you know, and it's easy to, I think that's such a human thing that it's easy to jump on someone when they're down, you know, instead of look at the bigger picture sometimes. But
A lot of times, even when they're up.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, that's good, man. I'm glad that you hadn't seen that because I found it extremely irrelevant and just one of those things that was just like, why does it matter? Like the gift or the product is in the film, and no one in the theater is going to be sitting there thinking, this was shot in Door County and it's about Green Bay. Like every movie you've ever seen was shot in a different place than you thought it was. It could have been in the
Dude, we've told this story a few times, but we got approached by a studio 2 weeks before shooting. So we were like, we're on location, like probably 95% of our crew is there. Craig's literally on a plane from LA, like coming to set. And we got a call from a pretty decent sized studio that caught wind of our project and was like, they made us an offer on the film. They're like, hey guys, we got, you know, we read the script, we see what you're up to, like, you know, we think this could be awesome. You know, we want to be a part of it. The caveat is we need you to punt a year and shoot it in Alabama. And because it was like a tax incentive thing, you know, which there's a lot of tax credits that are super advantageous for filmmakers that we had to turn down, obviously. But yeah, that was a crucial moment of like, hey, we could have easily taken a different path with this and taken that offer, shot it down in Alabama, but it just it would have sold out the film. Like it no longer then has that heartbeat of how we always imagined it on the landscape and like on location in Wisconsin. So like, yeah, it's a tough thing to knock, the Door County versus Green Bay, because like, you know, we turned down a pretty big offer just to shoot it here, you know, and I think and when you watch it, like I really do think that makes a difference in the project too, of like where you shoot it and your heart behind it. It comes through on the film, you know, like it totally does. So.
Man, I hope that person sees that story.
Yeah.
Man, I hope they see it.
It's so funny.
Yeah. It is funny.
And you're just watching like a trailer too. That's the other thing that's like cracks me up is like, you're not even watching the movie yet. You know what I mean? Like this is like a very basic 2-minute watered down version of what we did, you know? And so, yeah, I would just encourage people, like, I'm totally open to negative comments or criticism on the film. Like I'm very open to it and I'm excited to dialogue about it. But you got to watch the film if you're going to do it, you know, like you got to watch it and then let's have that conversation, you know, don't just watch the trailer.
Yeah, that's par for the course. We're a society that jumps in front when we can.
Yeah, no, it's true for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you taking some time to chat. Should we get Anders in the hot seat here for a little bit?
Bring him in. Yeah.
Thanks,
Davin.
Davin.
This is awesome, Brad. Yeah.
What's up, friends? Beautiful winter day in Wisconsin. We're one perch away from a limit, enjoying a nice forward beverage, nice warm shack. What else can you ask for? Try out some forward beverages. Check out their website. Grab them wherever they're available near you. Well, the best part about this is I don't have to do the intro again, man. This is unprecedented.
I was going to say, is that how you just smash cut into me?
Yeah, I'm going to put them together. So
cool.
This is unprecedented for Rooted Wisconsin. I've never had, two guests in the same episode.
Yeah.
But I think it's fitting, right? It seems like, I mean, of course you're brothers, but just from afar, it seems like the closeness is there, even on the project where, I don't know, is it pretty seamless from from one to the next in creation. So like before you jumped in the chair, Davin's over there working on
like,
something
hey,
and
can
kind
you
of
finish an
picking
edit
up
for
where
me?
you stepped off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that been the project?
Totally is. Yeah. You know, it's like we have these formal roles. I'm the director, he's the producer, but the honest truth of it is there's so much overlap. Like even Davin's wife was the one who tipped us off and said, you guys should have Craig T. Nelson be your actor, you know, and then Davin, I didn't, you know, I was like, okay, I'll take a look at that. I had to like Google him for a quick second, you know. But yeah, so in terms of just the overlap, you know, Davin was even scouting locations for us beforehand, and that's, you know, kind of a directorial thing. Like, you know, producers are part of that, but he's got such a creative eye and creative vision too, that yeah, there's and you know, conversely, I think I have like strategic ideas and so it's not as siloed as like he's the business, you know, organizer and I'm just the creative genius. It's definitely, you know, pretty fluid throughout it. And honestly, I think we get along really well. You know, we have a business together. It's like I feel like we got all of our fights out between the ages of 1 and 18, and now we can just be friends. And you know, you're also, I think one of the biggest advantages is like you have somebody who you know is fighting for you the whole time. Like I've had business partners in the past, and it's like you don't have there's not the same level of like just an inherent trust of this person is really, you know, he's going to look after my kids and look after my wife, and he wants to know that me as a person is doing really well. And that's just built into the DNA of our family and friendship. So
it's invaluable, especially in your creative space where, you know, there's always this conflict of the tug of war of self-interest versus like the genuine care.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, it's a delight. And I know not everybody can work with their family. Like I know, but for us, I don't think we ever really have a big argument or anything. It's always pretty easy and understood.
Nice. Yeah, you brought up Craig. That's where I wanted to start with you. One of my favorite parts from the red carpet night at Lambeau was when you told the story how you had the singular camera.
Yeah.
And then Craig called in his team and got the other camera and stuff.
Yeah.
From the audience, from my perspective, it seemed like in telling that story, you're either a very good storyteller or you've grown a pretty good relationship with Craig throughout. Which is it?
Yeah, no, we're really good friends.
Yeah.
Like I think he's, yeah, I mean, I at least I consider him my friend. I think, no, and I think he does too. There's like when you're on these projects, it's like there's this summer camp element to everybody's out of their normal routines, right? You're just thrown into this world of chaos and trying to figure it out, you know? So he flies out from LA, lands here, you know, we've got 48 hours or maybe a little bit more, 3 days to scout, to rehearse, to get to know each other. And so you go out to dinner with each other. You kind of just try to accelerate the relationship in a way. But I think you know, I don't know what it is. I still kind of sometimes wonder, I'm like, what does he see in us? You know, like what does he, but what he said is, you know, I think he read the soul of the script. He understood the spirit of what we were trying to do in, you know, in a lot of the meta narrative that's written in the story. And so he's like, I think there was a lot of trust from that, you know, a lot of shared ideas. You know, he's a big advocate for both, I think the spiritual narrative of the film, and then also the kind of like land farm stewardship part of the film too. The integration of athletics and spirituality is something that he's interested in too. So I think there's just a lot of trust, and from us, it felt a little unwarranted. It's like we're nobodies, you know, but in the same way, he also, how I've seen him interact with everybody is he brings himself, like he doesn't see himself as above other people. I think that's, you know, some folks in Hollywood can maybe view themselves as like, oh, you know, look what I've achieved. I'm a celebrity. He doesn't see himself that way. Like he really does see himself as another person, and he's lived a pretty kind of a pretty wild life. Like, you know, he lived off grid for, I think it was 7 years.
Dang, really?
Yeah, like I don't know anybody who can live off grid for 7 years. You know, he raced cars. he was a door-to-door vacuum salesman when he was auditioning early on, like before he had his big break. So he knows the struggle of real life. He was also an alcoholic and has been through AA and is a big AA advocate. And so I think he knows human suffering and human struggle really well, which I think makes him, can translate to being a really great actor because you can understand the emotional place of all these things. So, but I think when he sees other people, I don't think he sees himself, or he's fought himself really well, like fought his ego to just see, in me and Davin, it's like, here's two young guys who are trying to do some real good in the world and have a gift and need a shot. And, let's let my 80-year-old self try to help these guys out. And because even like all the PR stuff, like he doesn't get paid to fly out and do this stuff. Like he just, it's kind of in the contract that he should try and help, but that's vague, like he doesn't have to do that. And so he just continues to believe in us. And, this project's been going on this is year 5 and 4.5 that he's been a part of it, or 4. And he's just been along for the journey of it. It's pretty special.
It's so special, man. And that jumped off of the stage when you told that story. And then, it was such a human moment that there was an embrace you shared with them. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to wake up tomorrow. That humanity exists like that.
Yeah.
Like I could just tell from the audience that feeling was there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's not only is it valuable in life, but like we chase after it, man. And when you get it, it's like, okay, these moments are fleeting. And that, I don't know, that was one of my favorite parts of the whole night was seeing that those things come into view, I guess, for me. And it's awesome to hear your perspective of it.
Oh, it's just the truth. Like, I think how you said, it's like you desire it, you want that.
Yeah.
Like, I think for us, that's the spirit of what we want the film to be is one thing, but if the process of it is detached from that, like if say we just had this crazy actor from Hollywood who was a big name, flew in, was obnoxious to work with, pissed off the entire community, but now we have this film that's trying to be about hope and community benevolence. Like the whole thing is, it's like, I think the world sees through that now, and it's smoke and mirrors were a lot harder or a lot more easily deceptive back in the day, but now with social media, with these interactions, it's like people crave what's the authenticity behind it? What's the real story behind it? And so for us, I think, some of that was in our control. Some of that is like this grace we fell into where we just got maybe the most big-hearted Hollywood actor we could have, Yeah. But it's the truth of it is he's just such a rich human. And I think the desire that Davin and I had for that authenticity piece, he met with it and just exploded it into a great way. So
yeah, people certainly do crave it, man. That's one of the foundational pieces. I actually used to say the word authentic in the opening every time, but like then I felt like it started getting redundant. The same people were listening, so I stopped. But like that is a true driver of what I'm trying to do, because people do crave it. We live in at times this like cookie cutters too overused, but like we live in this like packaged society that's like, here's what to say, here's what it is, here's the image we're trying to portray. And in some ways that can be good, right? Because that can drive the conceptual base of something like your film, where it's like you want to share what you want to share of the upper Midwest. But at the same time, you can't, you have to do it in a real way. And that's hard sometimes. That's got to be hard as a creator at times too, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah, there's a business term, like you sell the sizzle, not the steak. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
And that's the thing is like you're trying to, I think as an artist, the whole thing has to be true and true and true. And then the sizzle part at the end is like, there is like a packagedness to have to show the bigness of what you want it to be, you know, to make it on the scale. But I think if I can't imagine if we had made a film that didn't have that base level of truth and authenticity from the beginning, trying to sell the sizzle on top of that, it would have been nauseating.
Yeah.
I think what's been really sweet about, your like the packaging of it and the trailers and the big event at Lambeau is, I know fundamentally there's like such goodness and such truth in it that it's a lot easier it's easy to sell in that way. It's easy to package because I'm like, I know there's no real like brokenness to the process. I mean, there was like, you have some little stuff between the team here and there that's like little conflicts, but the overall thing of it was awesome and beautiful. And it's like, what a great thing to be able to share and get out in the world, and so I don't know if that kind of goes into what you're saying, but
yeah,
but I think for all of our stories moving forward, I think if the experience, if the truth of what we're writing is good and right, if you nail that on a script level and then you nail it in a casting level, you nail it in the crew, like the crew that you acquire, and that if everybody's kind of working off of this sense of goodness, I think it can be a really cool thing the whole way through. Like I have no problem selling the sizzle of it at the end because I know it's good.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you put all that in up until the final point, then you have to. Then
exactly.
It makes it happen. Yeah. That's an interesting thing to think about. This has to be like this is the start of something. You mentioned the next steps, right?
Yeah.
So this is a massive project. It has to already be jumping you off into, like, people are reaching out, right? Like, what's your next project going to be?
Yeah.
How do you even manage those two completely different mind frames about like selling the sizzle right now, but at the same time trying to get yourself in a creative space about like, okay, do I answer this email? Do we explore this further? That has to be happening, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we've gotten a few different. I was actually texting somebody like right before I walked in here who like he couldn't believe that we've scaled up to 1,000 theaters nationwide, and he's like, I really want to be a part of your next film. I want to, and.
Like a talent?
He'd be like maybe an investor.
Okay, got
type,
it.
Yeah,
nice
type person, and that's happened. Like, there's a few other investors that have asked, like, hey, we want to hop on a call and see what your next project is, that kind of thing. And that's a dream.
Yeah.
Like for us as independent filmmakers, if you're having, equity people who are interested in your next project,
call you.
Like, what in the world? Like, we have to. The first one, you're just like slamming down doors, begging, like, please believe in me. But I think for us, there will be a time we really want to see it through well. Like that's the temptation probably was maybe 6 months ago to be like, okay, we should start developing the next story or the sequel or whatever. And, but it was like, man, we really, to do right by the investors, to do right by the project, it's like, let's put our all into getting this thing, like shove it across the finish line, and so February we can take a little break. And I think just try to reset our heads, like take a couple weeks off and just try to be a human again. I think that's the thing is like when you start to operate at this pace, this scale for so long, you stop being a human, you stop buying your own groceries and you stop.
It's robotic, right?
Yeah, you're robotic. Yeah. And you lose, you can feel yourself start to get numb. You can feel yourself start to get callous. And that's not because you're behaving poorly. I think it's just fatigue. I think it's, you're sharing kind of some of the same stuff over and over, so you just lose some of the humanity of yourself. So, which is fundamental as an artist, which you need to be purely in touch with. Like for me, that's one of my biggest beliefs as an artist is you put yourself in this receptivity posture where it's like, what is the idea that is being, given to us to steward to then produce and make into the world. There's like almost this flow, and that sounds a little woo-woo, especially, but that's just how I view it. It's similar to, I think, like planting seeds. Like you have an idea, you plant it, and then you just does that one grow? It might grow a little bit and then it dies, or this one really starts to go, then you start to nurture it and just try to, make yourself this in a sense like your own farmer of these ideas, and you're being given these seeds and you plant them in the ground and see which ones start to grow. So, and I think that comes through rest and just being in a good spot as a human. I don't want to make stuff from like a tired, broken spot.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you get that one that's growing, then similar to growing something or like nurturing an animal, even pun,
Yeah.
pun intended with the
Yeah,
movie. You feel the weight of that. And I think then that drives you to be that tireless worker
Yeah.
that does get numb.
Yep.
That's an interesting thing to chat about, man. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate that outside of the film then when you're making it and promoting it? How do you navigate that with familiar relationships, not only with your brother, but everybody in your circle? Like,
Yeah.
how do you try to grasp on or like cling to those pieces of the human you know is in there when
Yeah.
you're so tired and burned out and you got to do it, but you feel that weight from the other side? How are you navigating that?
Yeah, you know, one of the biggest things is I exercise a lot. So I do it at ungodly hours of just because it's what I have to do. So I'll, it's like the 4:45 wake up, alarm goes off, go to the gym, work out, and I do that because it helps my brain flush and reset, like the stress of it. I have like a pretty intentional prayer life too. So that's like another component of it. There's like a spiritual discipline similar to like the working out, like there's a rhythm to it. The other thing is I try to hold hours for my kids pretty intentionally. So like the hours of, I usually do their morning wake up. So, after I go to the gym, I'm usually back before they wake up. And then, so I get them in the morning, give my wife a chance to just like sleep. And then I'll have the kids in the morning, and then I'll usually stop work around 5:30 and then put them down at 7:30. They're still little. So I have this like 2-hour window that I'm with them. That I think that helps. Those little breaks and those rhythms, those pockets of sort of normalcy that I try to inject into it it's still helpful. I mean, you still have to fight it. Like my wife, she'll say like, "You're not present right now." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"I know, I'm so sorry. I can't." I'm like, after the kids are down, I'll then go back oftentimes to work right now. And so I'll work from 7 till 10:30 and so she probably gets the shortest end of the stick right now. And she knows that. And we kind of have this understanding that can't happen for a long time. Like that needs to end. And she's really understanding and gracious about it. But you still do get numb. Like I think even with those things, it's like just impossible, at least from my perspective, to be at this part of the project. Like this is the end of the marathon and we're like almost there. And so I think it's I would be shocked if we would be able to be in this like continual. Maybe part of it's though because we're also really involved in the marketing. I don't know if that'll always happen in the next movies, like
Yep.
if we can finish the movie and just like stop and take a break, like that would kind of be a lavished feeling, I think. So
Absolutely. And sell the Sizzle when the stove is on, but not have to worry about it when it's not, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on the exact same calendar, man.
Really?
I got a 3-year-old and I do the exact same thing.
Uh-huh.
I wake up and do the morning. It's my favorite time of the day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yep.
And then I try to be done with work relatively early, that 4 to 5 time frame, to
Yep.
spend the rest of the day with him
Yeah.
and my wife. And it's awesome because I felt like I was answering that question. Like we're in such a same
Yeah,
spot of the life
interesting.
where I start too many fires. I have too many things going on. I'm so passionate about so many things that I
Yeah.
love my projects.
Yep.
And I have to rein myself in.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that will do that like spending time with your 3-year-old.
Yeah. Yep.
There's nothing that just like centers you more on what truly matters in
Yep.
life. And like, do I need to chop out 5 more shorts from a podcast that night? Or is it more healthy and more beneficial for me to laugh because my 3-year-old says something funny
Yeah.
or wants to play Candyland for the 85th time of the day?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It doesn't get old.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more recharging than that. And then I also work out a ton too. So
Yeah.
I do the same exact thing. And
Yeah.
there's so much, talking about it is very easy.
Yeah.
Implementing it in practice
Yeah.
is significantly harder.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that like, because we work in all different kinds of time zones too. So
Yep.
I'll have people blowing me up in the morning. The New York crews are like blowing me up at 7 in the morning, and I just like I can feel my phone going like, and then same thing at night. Like the LA crew is still working, and I'm like trying to have dinner, and I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the perfect answer. Maybe the perfect answer is you just somehow have to like like lock your phone away during those times to like continue to reinforce presence or something. But I also think, like you're saying, like there's a certain level of restraint that I think is important for the healthiness of humans. You know, I think a lot of times in American society, especially like folks like us who are really driven and have a ton of energy and ton of enthusiasm, I'm interested in people who can implement restraint. Like I shouldn't do that. That is not good for me to start another business, to start another project. That to me is like balanced and I think needs to get more voice, particularly in the West and in America, because we're such workaholics, you know, and myself included. I'm not above that, but to learn to really spend that time with your kids and family and yourself and God, or however you perceive it, you know, it's like that. There's so much beauty that I think we miss out on, if especially as like doers and drivers, if we just like roll into the next thing. I don't want to be at the end of my days. I don't want to make 70 movies. You know, maybe we only end up making 3 or 2, or maybe this one tanks and this is the last one. You never know, you know. But I just at the end of the day, what I ultimately is, I want to be a good man, a good father, a good husband, and a good friend, and because that seems like that has more value to versus what, you know, the surface stuff we're doing. But
Absolutely, yeah. And for some reason, it's hard. Like our brain doesn't immediately think about that. Like you mentioned, maybe it's driven in us by Western culture. I don't know, but like the brain doesn't always remember that unless you make it.
Yeah.
And tell it to, and be super intentional about stuff like that.
Yeah. But even like these kind of conversations is helpful. Like I think it's like these kind of reminders. When I have friends who are more wired that way, my wife is much more wired that way, to not like go. And I think finding those voices, those people in your life that continue to just like remind you. For me, it's like, oh yeah.
Such good balance.
Yeah.
Same too. Actually, recently went through a super cold snap, and like I didn't even know that I said it, but like in passing one day, I said something like, "Oh, I'm gonna be cold the next few days. Let's hunker down and kind of stay at home." And my wife took that extremely literally, and like it was like we were a day and a half into a cold snap, and I was like, "I'm gonna go to the grocery store or something," and I was like, "What's going on today? What's the plan?" She's like, and she reminded me of what I said. She's like, You said we were hunkering down.
Right?
I'm not taking off my sweatpants.
Yeah.
Like this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's the best, man. That kind of balance can really center you. And like, I don't know. I think those energies probably attract for a reason, right?
I think
probably
so. Yeah,
a
it's
reason.
like I need that.
The calm in the storm or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Could you, 5-6 years ago when you started the project, did you imagine or manifest being on stage with Craig Culver and Craig T. Nelson at Lambeau talking about your film?
You know, it's funny. I remember I asked the guy who started OtterBox, like the phone case company. Yeah. He was a family friend, and I had asked him. I was like, "Did you ever imagine, because he was manufacturing stuff in a garage and didn't have a lot of cash. I was like, could you ever imagine this would have blown up to what it is?" And he's like, I didn't not expect it. He's like, you have vision for it, what it potentially could be, and so he's like, you don't not, and I think I understood that now a little bit with what we didn't make that anywhere near the kind of, the bigness and the scale that he was talking about. But I think, in our early ideas, we had a dream that this, or at least a hope maybe is what it is that it could actually work. Like this might happen. And you don't know how that's going to happen. You don't know how it'll manifest, but you have enough dream and enough vision where it's like, I think there's, and you don't have maybe the clarity around it, but there's like a hunch that maybe it can go, maybe there is something that would happen. And that night, I don't say that to downplay the night was this out of body experience, right? It's like, what happened? But it's also, I think, to maybe just reinforce the idea of like when we have these dreams, when we have these like a vision or a whiff of an idea, like it actually can happen, and it can go to that level. Some of them don't, some of those, like the seeds I was talking about, just like, I think that's gonna go, and it doesn't, But I think I just say that maybe more as reinforcing to myself the idea of like keep thinking on that level, keep thinking on that way of like I one of my biggest, this is again goes into maybe my spiritual life and the expectation. This, you know, like faith is being sure of what you hope for. And for me, it's that reinforcing of what do I hope and what do I, like I want to hope for big things. I want to hope for big, beautiful things to see in my life. Like I want to see miracles and see the world change in beautiful ways and get better and see our communities get better and our lives get better. And I have hope for that. And again, we're talking about like our version is like telling these stories, and who knows what that actually does. You know, you hope that it can inspire people. But it's our small part of what everybody is doing. So I think for me, it's like that reminder is like, if I have a vision for it, like have a belief in it, have that hope, like it can happen. It's just a matter of hanging in there and being patient and waiting and being content when it doesn't, probably, because we might have a project that totally falls flat on its ass, and that's fine, you know. That's okay.
That's such an awesome way to look at it, man. And that's such a real answer. Like, because we wouldn't do the projects if we didn't think there was value in it, right?
Yeah,
we wouldn't put these things together if you didn't ultimately see a path that led to something beautiful and something big.
Yeah.
And there's different turns that happen all the time that derail all journeys in life, man.
Yeah.
But you hope that, you know, the tires stay inflated, the engine stays running, and you stay on the path to get you to that one spot.
Yeah.
And imagine, I talk with a lot of people about the value of persistence a lot.
Yeah. 100%.
And imagine how many of those got stopped because the brakes were hit instead of the car breaking down.
Yeah.
Because the brakes were hit. And because it's like, I don't know, I venture to guess very few people are driven by something that they think, well, this could be okay. You know, like, it might be all right.
Yeah.
Maybe. But not to the level of obsession where you wear yourself out and do things. You have to have a vision of something that could be beautiful, but there's so many extraneous parts that there needs to be a yes here. There needs to be a Craig T. Nelson that reads the script.
Yeah.
And sometimes I spend countless hours thinking about where the convergence of what's written rewards persistence and pure happenstance come together. Because there's something there that rewards persistence. And I do another part of kind of like my daily routine is I do like this manifestation journaling where I talk about things that care about me, and I just write them on a piece of paper. I'll never share it with anybody. It's just like something there. Cool. But like something about it has a positive impact. Since I started doing it, you know, it might put me in a brain space that makes it happen. Yeah. It might push my persistence a little bit further than it has. It might be divine intervention. Who knows? Yeah. But what I do know is that if I hit the brakes, if I choose to do that, it doesn't matter how many words I write. Yeah. It's not going to come to life. Yeah. So I appreciate that answer, man, because like, you got to think it's going to be something. You got to, you have something to share.
Well, even like, I don't know if Davin shared this in his part with you or if you talked about this, but like the Packer partnership took, I think, maybe 3 years of emailing and conversations and trying to, you know, it wasn't, and this is no disrespect to them at all. It's just like they have this brand and they're worried about football, you know, their corporate partnerships and winning championships, right? Like that's what they're doing. And then we're this like weird movie that just keeps like showing up in their email. And they're just like, what are you guys doing? Like at one point we wanted to do the world's largest movie premiere at Lambeau. And it was like, okay, the rental cost for that is, you know, way out of what we can afford. So it was like, sorry, we can't help you guys. And we were like, okay, what do we do? You know, and so I just would email them like, what about this idea? What about this idea? Would this work? And, you know, eventually I like stop, and it would be there'd be a few months where I would stop and just be like, it's probably dead in the water, or maybe they'll never do this type of thing. And then one day I emailed their foundation randomly because I was like, oh, I wonder if their foundation ever does any work with farmers and then that foundation emailed, their corporate partnership, who like all of a sudden saw us not as just like this movie, but maybe could be a corporate partnership. And they just saw, they saw it in the right way, but that just came from like knocking on the door. No, knocking on the door. No, knocking on the door. Not that. No, 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 no. And then finally like, oh, that's interesting. And I had a fun chat with Gabrielle Dow, the marketing, I think she's the CMO or the marketing director of the Packers. And we had a good laugh because I was like, I am so sorry. I know I was being annoying to you, but I had no intention of being annoying. But I was like, this is my shot. I was like, and she was so gracious about it. But I was like, this was my shot. Like we needed desperately a corporate partner like you guys to help us. And so I was like, I was throwing everything I could at it, and I think that's maybe my personality trait, that like persistent, like I know it drives my wife nuts when I'm like, we should do this. We should do this.
Yep.
We should do this. She's like, okay, can you shut up? Like, but there is a beauty in it. There is a beauty in that wiring that it, and I think a necessity on projects of this type of scale or any kind of entrepreneurial venture. It's like you have to have this inner persistence, this inner repetition, discipline, fight, because you believe in it. Or you have to believe in it so much that you'll be willing to do that. Maybe I don't know which comes first, but.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I've been that person a few times in my life. I'm that person right now with Charlie. I'm trying to get him to come on the podcast. Yeah, I'm that guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But like what really I think about when I left broadcasting and I got my next career move was something unlike I had ever done before. But it was something that I had diagnosed that I wanted to support people in a different way. But I sent an email to the HR business partner of the place that I was like looking to work and do every single Monday morning for probably 2 months.
Wow.
Like,
there you go.
She had that same feeling of like, oh, this person's sick of me, but at the same time, this makes too much sense not to give it everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Like, what's the worst that happens? She clicks the X, it goes out and reads the next email.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I think that embodies what it is. That embodies that convergence of what I was talking about. Like, no one will ever know. You won't know if it was the 50 emails or if you would have come to that one eventually, even if you didn't send the first 49.
Yeah.
You won't know. But like I think my favorite part about that then is then when you do get a chance to look back on it, it's such a satisfying feeling that you followed through with it.
Yeah.
No matter, you had no idea that the partnership would ever happen.
Yeah.
You knew it would be valuable and you saw it through till the bitter end.
Yeah.
And when you think about your next project, I think that builds the momentum into what great next happens.
Yeah.
Is that you have that innate now, who knows if it's belief or confidence or whatever blinders. It could be blinders saying, well, I did it once, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
But like that's where the follow-up value happens.
Yeah.
I love that.
100%. And I think it's like, I also have received obnoxious sales emails over and over and over. And it's like, it's different than that. Like you're writing, I think when, like for us and the persistence part of it is like, I know there could be something beautiful for you guys too. Like there is a mutual benefit here. And cause I know the value of who we are as people is like, what we have is a beautiful thing we made and we're a part of and able to steward. And like, I know this could actually be helpful to you guys too. So like, forgive me, I'm not trying to be obnoxious, but I really want you to give me an ear. Like, give me a chance, give me a shot. And so I think that always feels different versus like the obnoxious sales guy who's just hammering on your door to get you to listen to his thing or whatever. So, yeah, it is satisfying though. And just fun. And I think, when I was chatting with Gabrielle, it was like we had a mutual understanding and a mutual respect of like, I knew what she was doing. She's like, she's got a big responsible thing she's got to care for. And I can't fathom the emails she receives. And I think, that was a fun chat.
Yeah. I joked about it. That HR business partner retired about a year ago or something like that, and I wrote what I hope was a kind and like fun reflection on that in a retirement card. I was like,
Yeah.
thanks for putting up with me for 2 months when I was,
For me doing this.
yeah.
That's
Man,
great.
that's a perfect way to end it. I appreciate you taking some time, Anders.
Such a pleasure. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for doing this. It's fun to, your questions are really, it's cool to chat more about like the inner process and the inner journey of it. Cause on the surface, we talk a lot about the film and the outward thing of it, but there's a lot of inward familial things that I appreciate you asking about. So
there's humans behind everything, man.
Exactly.
There's a lot of stuff in this world, but a human made almost all of it. It's weird with the rise of AI happening, but we're always going to need an input, man.
Yeah, I think so. So thank you.
Thanks, Anders.